Simple nurse hid between the cold, wealthy CEO's legs to escape her ex, and accidentally made him fall in love. The name hit her like a physical blow. Everyone in Atlanta knew Pierce Medical Technologies. Its CEO was rumored to be brilliant, ruthless, and cold as ice. Have you ever made a split-second decision that changed your entire life? Hi viewers, kindly tell us where you're watching from and what time it is. Warm welcome to the family. Enjoy the story. The moment she dove between his muscular thighs in the back seat of that Rolls-Royce, Kayla Brooks knew she'd crossed more than just a physical boundary. She'd breached the invisible wall of Atlanta's most dangerous man. Rain hammered the tinted windows as Kayla crouched on the luxury car's floor, her nurse's scrubs still damp from running through the hospital parking lot. Her breathing came in short gasps, fear making her forget everything: her pride, her independence, even basic courtesy. "Please," she whispered, not looking up at the man whose expensive suit pants now brushed against her cheek. "He'll kill me if he finds me." The man's thighs tensed around her, a wall of muscle that could either protect or trap her. For 3 heartbeats, neither moved. Then long fingers tilted her chin upward, forcing her to meet steel-gray eyes that assessed her with cold calculation. "Who's after you?" His voice cut through the air, quiet, commanding, rich with authority. Before she could answer, angry shouts pierced the night. Marcus's rage-filled voice carried across the parking lot as he searched for her between cars. The man above her glanced toward the window, then pressed a button on the door panel. "Drive," he ordered, and the Rolls-Royce purred to life. As they pulled away from Emory University Hospital, Kayla caught a glimpse of Marcus's furious face in a rearview mirror. His fist punched the air as he screamed promises of what he'd do when he caught her. "Thank you," she murmured, still huddled between the stranger's knees. "I can get out of the next block." "No," just one word, but it carried the weight of command. "That man knows where you work. He'll wait for you to return." She finally gathered the courage to move from between his legs, sliding onto the leather seat beside him. The interior lights illuminated his face, sharp cheekbones, a strong jaw dusted with 5 o'clock shadow, and those eyes that seemed to strip away every defense. "I don't need your help," she said, chin lifting despite her shaking hands. "I just needed to disappear for a minute." His mouth curved slightly, not quite a smile. "Yet here you are in my car, heading to my home." The enormity of her situation crashed down. She jumped from one danger into another unknown. This man radiated power and control, his custom suit, and the way he occupied space speaking of wealth and influence. "Who are you?" she asked. "Alexander Pierce." The name hit her like a physical blow. Everyone in Atlanta knew Pierce Medical Technologies. Its CEO was rumored to be brilliant, ruthless, and cold as ice. She'd just hidden between the legs of the most powerful man in the city. As the car pulled away from the hospital, Kayla realized 3 terrifying truths. Marcus would never stop hunting her. She had just put herself at the mercy of a complete stranger. And worst of all, she couldn't ignore the electricity that shot through her body when those steel-gray eyes locked onto hers. Have you ever made a split-second decision that changed your entire life? What would you do if you had to choose between danger you know and protection from someone you don't? Tell me in the comments below. The first time Alexander Pierce smiled in 7 years was when a trembling nurse looked up from between his thighs and whispered, "Please don't call the police." Now, as his penthouse elevator ascended 60 floors above Atlanta, he studied the woman beside him. Her scrubs, blue with tiny yellow daisies, were rumpled and damp. Her dark skin glowed with a thin sheen of sweat and rain. Despite her fear, she stood tall, shoulders back, eyes forward. "I don't make a habit of rescuing strangers," he said as the doors opened directly into his home. "I don't make a habit of hiding between strangers' legs," she replied, then bit her lip as if surprised by her own boldness. His penthouse stretched before her like a museum of marble and glass, everything immaculate and untouched, much like the man himself. Floor-to-ceiling windows displayed Atlanta's glittering skyline, the city lights reflected in the polished black floors. "Bathrooms through there," Alexander pointed to a hallway. You'll find towels and a robe. I'll have clothes brought up. Kayla hesitated. Why are you helping me? Because you asked. He turned away, phone already in hand, texting his security team. In the massive bathroom, Kayla stared at her reflection. Dark circles underlined her eyes, and her braids had come loose from their careful bun. She looked nothing like the composed professional who'd started her shift 12 hours ago. The shower's hot water washed away the night's panic, but not her awareness of where she was or with whom. She emerged wrapped in a plush robe that probably cost more than her monthly rent. In the kitchen, Alexander waited with 2 steaming mugs. Coffee, black, though I have cream and sugar if you need it. Black is fine. She accepted the mug, careful not to let their fingers touch. He studied her over the rim of his cup. The man following you. Ex-boyfriend. Something like that. She sipped the coffee. Rich and expensive, like everything else here. Did he hurt you? Not tonight. Alexander's eyes narrowed. Without breaking his gaze, he set down his mug and rolled up his sleeve, revealing a 6-inch scar along his forearm. My wife tried to leave me once, early in our marriage, he said quietly. Her ex found her. I wasn't fast enough. Kayla's breath caught. I'm sorry. She lived. He didn't. The words hung in the air between them, neither a threat nor a boast, simply fact. When his phone rang at 3 a.m., the screen lighting up with hospital security, Kayla watched his expression harden from ice to granite. Your ex brought friends, he said quietly after ending the call, and they've accessed the hospital's employee records. Kayla sank onto a bar stool, the mug trembling in her hands. He knows where I live. Alexander took the cup from her shaking fingers, his hand briefly covering hers. The touch sent warmth spreading up her arm, contrasting with the cold fear in her chest. You're staying here tonight, he said, his tone leaving no room for argument. Tomorrow, we'll discuss options. As he led her to the guest bedroom, Kayla noticed how he kept a careful distance, as if aware of the strange electricity between them. At the doorway, he paused. Lock the door behind me. I don't need. Lock it, he repeated softly. Not because I might enter, but because you need to know you can keep people out. As the door closed between them, Kayla realized she'd never felt more confused, afraid for her life yet strangely safe, grateful for rescue yet wary of the rescuer. And most troubling of all, inexplicably drawn to a man who radiated danger of an entirely different kind. Would you rather struggle independently or accept help that comes with unknown strings? Drop a comment about your choice. She'd spent 4 years running from one man's obsession. Now another man with unlimited power was offering her protection with 3 chilling words. Become my fiancé. Morning light sliced through floor-to-ceiling windows, catching the harsh angles of Alexander's face as he laid out the terms of their arrangement, as if her safety were simply another business deal to close before breakfast. You can't be serious, Kayla said, the bagel halfway to her mouth forgotten. I'm always serious. Alexander pushed a document across the marble countertop. 6 months. Public appearances, shared living space, all expenses covered. Your mother's medical bills included. Kayla froze. How do you know about my mother? I had you investigated while you slept. He stated this as casually as commenting on the weather. Standard procedure for anyone entering my home. You invaded my privacy. I protected my interests. His eyes met hers without apology. Your mother's care in Birmingham costs $4,200 monthly. You send her $3,000 from your salary, leaving you with barely enough for your own apartment. Anger flashed through her. I don't need your money. No. Then why were you working a double shift when your ex found you? Alexander leaned forward. Pride is expensive, Kayla. Sometimes fatally so. The truth stung. She'd been running herself into the ground, trying to support her mother while staying hidden from Marcus. Why fake an engagement? Why not just hire me security? Because security can be avoided. A relationship can't. Alexander stood, buttoning his suit jacket in one smooth motion. Marcus will back off if he believes you belong to someone more powerful. I don't belong to anyone, she snapped. His expression softened slightly. Poor choice of words. If he believes you're protected by someone more powerful. Kayla studied the contract. 6 months of safety. 6 months of financial security. 6 months pretending to love a man who approached relationships like corporate mergers. What do you get out of this? The board has been pressuring me to humanize my image. Apparently, I'm too cold for public relations. His mouth twisted. A devoted fiancé solves that problem. And after 6 months, we part ways. You keep a generous settlement. I return to my life. Kayla's fingers traced the contract's edge. And in private, what expectations do you have? Alexander's gaze remained steady. None. Separate bedrooms. No physical obligations. The relief that flooded her was tinged with something else. Disappointment? Impossible. I've been owned before, she said, voice steady despite her trembling hands. I won't be someone's possession again. Not even yours. This isn't ownership, Kayla. It's alliance. He slid a pen toward her. Your ex is watching your apartment right now. My security team confirmed it 10 minutes ago. You have no safe place to go. She picked up the pen, its weight solid in her hand. No physical expectations at all. None that you don't initiate. His voice dropped lower, sending an involuntary shiver down her spine. As she signed the 6-month contract, Alexander's phone buzzed with a text. His expression flickered as he read it. Something dark passing behind his eyes. What is it? She asked. Nothing important. He tucked the phone away too quickly. We'll need to announce our engagement tonight. I've arranged for suitable clothing to be delivered. Kayla sensed the lie, but didn't press. Whatever the message contained, it concerned her. She felt it with bone-deep certainty. One condition, she said, pushing the signed contract back to him. No secrets that involve me. If we're doing this, I need to know what I'm walking into. Alexander studied her, reassessing. Then he showed her the text. Found something in her background, check you need to see immediately. His eyes flickered to Kayla, who was now legally bound to him, while hiding something that could destroy them both. What price would you put on your freedom? Is security worth the risk of losing control? Share your thoughts below. The world saw Alexander Pierce welcome his new fiancée into his glass mansion on the hill, but neither of them noticed the man watching from the shadows, fingering the scars Kayla had left on his face years ago. Smile, Alexander murmured, his hand warm against the small of her back as they stepped from the black SUV. Camera flashes exploded like lightning as they emerged, her hand tucked into his elbow, a perfect picture of power and beauty that masked the contract locked in his safe upstairs. Alexander, over here, reporters shouted. Who's the lucky lady? Kayla fought the urge to shrink against him. The emerald dress they'd selected hugged her curves while remaining elegant. Diamond earrings, on loan, Alexander had insisted, caught the light with every turn of her head. Mr. Pierce, is it true you met at the hospital during your philanthropic visit? Alexander's practiced smile never wavered. I believe when you meet the right person, you know immediately. His arm slid around her waist, pulling her closer. Kayla, capture my attention from our first encounter. That much, at least, wasn't a lie. Inside the charity gala, Atlanta's elite circled them like sharks sensing blood. Women who graced magazine covers assessed Kayla with thinly veiled contempt. Men who controlled the city's wealth watched Alexander with new curiosity. They're wondering what makes you special, Alexander whispered, his breath warm against her ear. They've tried throwing their daughters at me for years. And what should I tell them? Kayla asked, accepting a champagne flute from a passing waiter. Nothing. Let them wonder. His fingers brushed hers as he took his own glass. Mystery maintains power. Across the room, a woman in a red dress stared openly. Her platinum blonde hair framed a face beautiful enough to launch product lines. Your ex-girlfriend? Kayla asked. My sister, Alexander replied, his voice cooling several degrees. Victoria Pierce Hamilton, currently deciding whether to acknowledge your existence. Before Kayla could respond, the event coordinator announced the first dance. Alexander led her to the center of the floor as a waltz began. I don't know how to dance like this, she whispered, panic rising. Follow my lead. His hand settled at her waist, the other clasping hers. Step back with your right foot. As they moved across the floor, Kayla felt the weight of hundreds of eyes. Alexander guided her with subtle pressure, his body telegraphing each move before it happened. "Everyone's watching," she murmured. "Let them." His eyes held hers, intense and focused. All they need to see is a man who can't look away from his fiancée. For a moment, Kayla forgot it was pretend. The warmth of his hand, the solid presence of his chest near hers, the surprising grace of his movement. It felt real in a way that scared her. Back in his penthouse, Kayla kicked off the painful heels with relief. "How do you do this every night?" "I don't." Alexander loosened his tie. "I avoid most functions. Another reason the board wants me humanized." The night skyline spread before them, millions of lights against darkness. In her emerald dress with diamonds at her ears, Kayla hardly recognized her reflection in the window. When Alexander's sister called, her voice ice-cold on speakerphone. "You expect me to believe you're suddenly engaged to some random black nurse?" Kayla's stomach dropped. The evening news played in the background. Breaking. Woman claiming to be engaged to billionaire Alexander Pierce comes forward in Louisiana, showing childhood photos as proof. Have you ever worn a mask so convincing you almost believed it yourself? What happens when pretending becomes feeling? Let me know your experience. The first time Alexander Pierce raised his voice wasn't in a boardroom. It was defending a woman he barely knew to the family who thought they owned him. His family estate stretched across 30 acres of Atlanta's Old Money District, a monument to generational wealth that seemed to whisper, "You don't belong," with every creaking floorboard beneath her feet. "This is absurd, Alexander," Victoria hissed, pacing the library while their father watched from behind his massive desk. "You expect us to believe you've been secretly dating this." Her eyes flicked dismissively over Kayla. "This nurse, and now you're engaged?" Alexander stood beside Kayla, his body radiating tension. "I don't particularly care what you believe, Victoria." Their father, Harold Pierce, studied Kayla like a specimen under glass. At 72, his face showed the same sharp features as his son's, softened by age but hardened by privilege. "The woman from New Orleans," Harold said finally. "She claims you two dated in college." "I've never been to New Orleans," Alexander replied coolly. "And I certainly never dated anyone named Cheryl Williams." Victoria moved closer to Kayla, the expensive perfume suffocating. "And what about you? What's your angle? The Pierce fortune? The social status a black girl from Birmingham couldn't dream of otherwise." Kayla felt Alexander tense beside her, but she placed a hand on his arm. "I graduated top of my class at Emory's nursing program," she said, meeting Victoria's gaze steadily. "I work in trauma care, saving lives while you what? Plan charity luncheons?" Victoria's face flushed. "How dare you?" "No, how dare you?" Alexander cut in, voice dropping dangerously. "Kayla works 16-hour shifts helping people. She sends most of her money to care for her mother. She has more integrity in her little finger than this entire family combined." Harold rose from behind his desk. "That's enough, Alexander. Remember who you're speaking to." "I know exactly who I'm speaking to." Alexander's hand found Kayla's, fingers interlacing. "The same people who told me I couldn't grieve my wife properly, who pushed me back to work 2 weeks after her funeral because the market waits for no one." The room fell silent. Kayla squeezed his hand, surprised by the real emotion in his voice. "You chose her over family?" Victoria finally whispered. Alexander's voice dropped to a deadly quiet. "I chose character over prejudice. Try it sometime." As they left the study, Alexander guided Kayla upstairs. "I need to speak with my father privately. Wait for me here." Here turned out to be Alexander's childhood bedroom, preserved like a museum exhibit. Trophies lined the shelves. Harvard pennants hung on walls. Nothing personal, nothing revealing. Except Kayla noticed a single framed photo on the nightstand. Alexander, younger and smiling, with a beautiful woman whose eyes crinkled with laughter. "My wife, Eleanor," Alexander said from the doorway. "The only other person who's been in this room in the past decade." Kayla turned, startled by his silent approach. "I'm sorry about your family." "Don't be. They've always been exactly who they are." He moved closer, the tension from downstairs still vibrating through him. His eyes dropped to her lips, then back to her eyes, a question. Kayla didn't think. She simply stepped forward, closing the distance between them. His kiss was tentative at first, then hungry. His hands framed her face with surprising gentleness as her arms wound around his neck. When they broke apart, both breathing hard, Alexander rested his forehead against hers. That wasn't in the contract. I know, she whispered. I initiated it. As they drove away from his family's estate, Alexander's phone rang, his head of security. Sir, we found something in Kayla's past. There's a birth certificate from New Orleans with her name listed as the mother. When did someone stand up for you when they didn't have to? Or when did you stand up for someone else against all odds? Share your story. She had kept one secret buried for 5 years, until the night the most powerful man in Atlanta looked her in the eyes and asked, "Who is Lily Brooks? And why does your ex-boyfriend claim she's his daughter?" The penthouse felt suddenly airless. Rain lashed against the windows as lightning illuminated her tears, nature mirroring the storm raging between them as truth finally rose to the surface. How long have you known? Kayla's voice barely rose above the thunder. Alexander set his phone on the coffee table, the birth certificate displayed on screen. My team found it an hour ago. I wanted to hear it from you. Kayla wrapped her arms around herself, turning toward the rain-streaked windows. The city lights blurred through her tears, Atlanta's skyline becoming a watercolor of smeared brightness. I was 24, she began, her reflection fracturing the glass. Marcus and I have been dating for almost a year. I thought I loved him. Alexander remained silent, giving her space to continue. The first time he hit me, I left, went to my cousin's place. Her fingers traced patterns on the cold window. He showed up with flowers, tears, promises. I believed him. They always promise, Alexander said quietly. She nodded. 3 months later, I was pregnant. That's when he changed completely, controlling every move, checking my phone, timing my trips to the store. Lightning flashed again, briefly illuminating her face. By my 7th month, I knew I had to leave. He'd thrown me against a wall during an argument. I was afraid for the baby. Alexander moved closer, but didn't touch her. What happened? I planned everything carefully. Bus ticket to Birmingham. New phone. But he caught me packing. Her voice broke. The things he did that night. I ended up in the hospital. Alexander's reflection in the window showed a muscle working in his jaw. And the baby? Emergency C-section. She was early but healthy. Perfect. Kayla's hand moved unconsciously to her stomach, to the scar hidden beneath her clothes. I named her Lily. Where is she now? The question broke something inside her. A sob tore from her throat. I don't know. I never even held her. Marcus had already told the hospital staff I was unstable, dangerous. He had forged medical records showing I'd tried to harm myself during pregnancy. Alexander's eyes darkened. He took a child. His family has connections in New Orleans. The judge granted him emergency custody while I was still unconscious. Her voice hardened. When I woke up, she was gone. I tried fighting in court, but his evidence seemed irrefutable. Medical records, witness statements, all fake, all believing I was unfit. That's why you ran. She nodded. He said if I kept fighting for custody, he'd make sure I never saw her again. So I disappeared, started over in Atlanta. I've been searching for her, saving money for lawyers, but he found you first, Alexander finished. The baby was taken from me before I even held her, she whispered. Marcus convinced everyone I was unfit, that I tried to harm her. That's why I ran. That's why I can never stop running. Without warning, Alexander closed the distance between them, pulling her against his chest. His arms encircled her, strong and secure, as she broke apart. I should have told you, she murmured against his shirt. But I was afraid you'd think I abandoned my child. His hand stroked her hair, the gesture surprisingly tender. I think you're a mother who's been fighting alone far too long. They stayed like that, her tears soaking his expensive shirt, his heartbeat steady under her ear. When she finally looked up, his expression had transformed from ice to steel. Alexander's voice cut through her sobs, wrapped in velvet but edged with iron. We're going to find your daughter, Kayla. And then we're going to destroy the man who took her from you." What he didn't say was that the child's location had already appeared on his phone, along with a message: "Meet me alone," where she disappears forever. How far would you go to protect a child? What would you sacrifice? Tell me in the comments. For years, as a fugitive taught Kayla to trust no one, until a billionaire with resources in 50 states promised to help find the daughter she never got a hold. Alexander's home office transformed into a war room. Digital maps glowing on screens as locations pinged across Louisiana and Mississippi, each light a possible location of the child who shared Kayla's eyes. Marcus's family owns property in these 7 areas, Alexander explained, fingers tracing paths across the touchscreen. "My team has eyes on 4 of them already." Kayla studied the information, nurses training helping her organize the chaos. His cousin Darnell was close to him. They grew up together in this neighborhood. She pointed to an area outside New Orleans. "We'll start there." Alexander made a call, speaking in clipped instructions to his head of security. For 3 days, they barely slept. Alexander worked remotely, running his company from his office while deploying private investigators across state lines. Kayla pored over records, identifying Marcus's associates, reconstructing his movements since she'd fled. On the 4th night, exhaustion caught up with her. She dozed off on the office couch, case files scattered across her lap. She woke to find Alexander watching her, his tie loosened, sleeves rolled up to his elbows. "You should rest in a real bed," he said softly. "I can't stop," she murmured. "Every minute we waste is a minute we're getting closer." He sat beside her, the couch dipping under his weight. "My team is working around the clock. The best thing you can do now is stay sharp." His hand covered hers, thumb tracing circles on her wrist. The simple touch sent warmth radiating up her arm. "What if we find her and she doesn't know me?" Kayla whispered her deepest fear. "What if she loves whoever's raising her?" Alexander's eyes met hers. "Then we make sure she is both, the family that raised her and the mother who never stopped looking." Kayla leaned against him, her head finding the hollow of his shoulder. The steady rhythm of his breathing calmed her racing thoughts. "Why are you doing all this?" she asked. "Our contract only covers your public image." His arms slipped around her, drawing her closer. Some things matter more than contracts. The admission hung between them, fragile and new. Kayla tilted her face up to his, need overriding caution. His kiss tasted of coffee and determination, gentle at first, then deepening as she pressed closer. His hands traced paths across her skin as if memorizing territory, each touch an unspoken promise. "I need you," she whispered against his mouth, surprised by how much she meant it. Not just for this, for everything. Clothing gave way to exploration, their bodies finding rhythm in the dim light of the office. Alexander whispered her name like a prayer as they moved together, the search for her daughter temporarily eclipsed by a different kind of hunger. Afterward, wrapped in his suit jacket, Kayla felt clarity rather than regret. For the first time in years, she wasn't facing her battles alone. "I have something," Alexander said, reaching for his buzzing phone. The screen showed a message from his investigator, an address in Baton Rouge, and a school photo of a little girl with Kayla's smile and Marcus's eyes. "Lily," Kayla breathed, touching the screen. "She looks like my grandmother. She's registered at a private preschool under the name Lily Whitfield," Alexander read. "Currently living with Marcus's cousin Darnell and his wife." Hope bloomed in Kayla's chest. Beautiful, terrifying hope. "How soon can we go to her?" "It's not that simple," Alexander cautioned. "We need legal standing. If we approach incorrectly, they could disappear with her." As if confirming his fears, dawn broke as Alexander's phone chimed with a video message. Tiny fingers clutching a teddy bear, a child's voice saying "Mommy," followed by Marcus's voice. "For $1 million. Cash. Or your fiancé never meets her daughter. What lengths would you go to for someone you're falling for? Is there such a thing as too far when protecting someone you care about? Share your thoughts." The richest man in Georgia was ready to pay $4 million for a child he'd never met. Not because he was generous, but because he couldn't bear the hollow look in Kayla's eyes when she whispered her daughter's name. "It's a trap," Alexander said, pacing the penthouse living room. He knows we've located her. He's trying to control the situation. Kayla watched him move, a cage predator calculating angles of attack. I don't care if it's a trap. If there's even a chance to see Lily. We'll see her, he promised, but not on his terms. Alexander's team prepared the private jet, while Kayla packed a small bag. Her hands trembled as she folded clothes. What did a mother wear to meet the child stolen from her? What could possibly be right for such a moment? Ready, Alexander appeared in the doorway, his own bag in hand. The private jet cut through clouds as they flew toward New Orleans, the city where Kayla's nightmare began now looking like their only hope, its lights glittering below like broken promises. My lawyers are filing emergency motions in Louisiana courts, Alexander explained, handing her a folder of documents. We're challenging the original custody ruling based on new evidence of document falsification. Kayla flipped through the pages. How did you get Marcus's medical records? Alexander's smile didn't reach his eyes. Money opens doors that should remain locked. His psychiatric evaluation from 3 years ago shows paranoid tendencies and violence issues. Information conveniently missing during your custody hearing. She studied his profile as he worked on his laptop. In 2 weeks, this man had transformed from stranger to ally to lover. The intensity of it should have frightened her, yet it felt like finding solid ground after years of drifting. Alexander, she said softly, if this goes wrong, it won't. He closed the laptop, turning his full attention to her. But if it does, remember you're not alone anymore. His hand found hers across the table, fingers interlacing. The simple connection anchored her against the turbulence of fear. In their hotel suite, anxiety made sleep impossible. Alexander found her on the balcony at midnight, watching the French Quarter pulse with life below. I keep thinking about her, Kayla said as he joined her. Does she sleep with a nightlight? Is she afraid of thunderstorms like I was? Does she know, somehow, that I never wanted to leave her? Alexander's arms encircled her from behind, his chest warm against her back. Children know when they're loved, even across distance. She turned in his embrace, needing closer connection. His kiss drove back the darkness, replacing fear with heat. They stumbled back into the suite, clothes marking a path to the bedroom as hands rediscovered sensitive places. His teeth grazed her neck as his hands pinned hers above her head, bodies pressed against the hotel wall. Come back to me, he commanded against her skin. Promise me. Her answer was a gasp, always, as pleasure overtook fear. Later, wrapped in hotel sheets, Kayla traced the scar on Alexander's arm, the one he'd gotten protecting his wife years ago. When this is over, he said, fingers interlaced with hers, the contract ends if you want. But know this, what I feel for you is never on paper. The burner phone rang at midnight in their hotel suite. Change of plans. Marcus's voice dripped through the speaker. I don't want money anymore. I want Kayla back, or your company's new surgical technology goes to your competitors. Choose, rich man, your woman or your legacy. Alexander's eyes met Kayla's across the room. In them, she saw something that both terrified and strengthened her. The look of a man ready to sacrifice everything he'd built. Have you ever found strength in someone else when yours was gone? When did someone's support change everything for you? Comment below. Alexander Pierce had built his empire by anticipating his opponent's moves, but he never expected to sacrifice his company for a woman who still didn't completely trust him. We need to involve the FBI, Alexander said, spreading documents across the hotel desk. Marcus is now attempting corporate extortion across state lines. That's federal. Kayla shook her head. The moment law enforcement appears, he'll hide Lily where we'll never find her. He's already threatening that, Alexander pointed out. At least with federal agents, we have resources beyond money. The FBI field office in New Orleans was sleek and modern, nothing like the crime shows on television. Special Agent Rivera listened to their story without interruption, her dark eyes missing nothing. We can wire you, she explained after consulting her team. Get him on record making threats. But Ms. Brooks would need to meet him alone initially. Alexander's jaw tightened. Absolutely not. It's not your decision, Kayla said quietly. It's mine. Their argument continued in whispers as they left the federal building. Alexander's hand gripped her elbow, steering her toward their waiting car. He put you in a hospital once, he reminded her, voice low and intense. I won't let that happen again. Let me. Kayla pulled away. This isn't about your permission, Alexander. This is about my daughter. His face softened. I can't lose you. Not when I've just found you. The admission hung between them on the sidewalk, raw and honest in a way his carefully constructed words rarely were. Back at the hotel, they developed a plan with the FBI team. Kayla would meet Marcus at an abandoned warehouse by the Mississippi River, his choice of location. Alexander and agents would maintain distance, but monitor everything through surveillance. The moment he confirms Lily's location or makes any threat, we move in, Agent Rivera explained, adjusting the wire beneath Kayla's shirt. Alexander paced the hotel room, tension radiating from his shoulders. When the agent stepped out to prepare equipment, he pulled Kayla into his arms. Promise me you'll stay in range of the wire, he murmured against her hair. Promise you won't try to handle this alone. I promise, she whispered back. I'm done running. The abandoned warehouse loomed at the edge of the Mississippi River, its broken windows reflecting moonlight like watching eyes as Kayla walked alone toward the entrance. Alexander's voice steady through the hidden earpiece. I'm right here. Always. Inside, shadows stretched across concrete floors. Water dripped somewhere in the distance, each drop echoing like a countdown. Marcus? She called, her voice stronger than she felt. He emerged from behind a rusted support column. The same handsome face that had once made her heart race, now only triggering alarm. The scars on his right cheek, 3 parallel lines from her keys that night she escaped, stood out white against his brown skin. Look at you, he said, circling her slowly. Designer clothes, diamond earrings. Found yourself a rich white man to solve all your problems. Kayla kept her breathing steady. Where's Lily? Marcus laughed. Straight to business. Your billionaire taught you well. Our daughter, Marcus. That's the only reason I'm here. Our daughter is fine. Better than fine, without a mother who tried to kill herself while pregnant. Kayla's hands clenched. We both know that never happened. The courts believe it happened. His smile turned cruel, just like they'll believe whatever else I tell them. What do you want? She asked, though she already knew. Come home, Kayla. Be a family again. Your rich man can keep his company. You can even see Lily sometimes, supervised, of course. Through her earpiece, Alexander's voice remained calm. Keep him talking. Almost there. Marcus stepped from the shadows, but the child wasn't with him. Just a phone showing live video of a little girl sleeping. Did you really think I'd bring her here? He laughed. She's with my cousin. One text from me, and they're gone forever. So here's my final offer. Come home, Kayla, or say goodbye to your daughter. Would you risk everything for someone you've known only weeks? When does protecting someone become controlling them? Share your perspective. She walked toward her abuser with steady steps, her face a mask of surrender, while the most dangerous game of chess Atlanta had ever seen played out behind Marcus's back. You win, Marcus, Kayla said, voice hollow. I'll come back with you. Just let me see our daughter first. His smile widened, satisfaction gleaming in his eyes. That's my girl. Always knew you'd come to your senses eventually. Through her earpiece, Alexander's voice remained steady despite the edge of panic. Kayla, don't. We have agents closing in on Darnell's house. Stick to the plan. She reached up, as if brushing hair from her face, and subtly disconnected the earpiece. This gamble was hers alone. The money, Marcus demanded, extending his hand. Pierce was supposed to bring cash. He's transferring it now, she lied smoothly. To the account you specified. For $1 million. Marcus pulled out his phone, checking for notification. Finding none, his expression darkened. You're lying? No, I'm stalling, Kayla admitted. Every minute you spend with me is another minute the FBI gets closer to your cousin's house. To Lily, rage transformed his face. His hand shot out, grabbing her throat. You stupid bitch. You think you're smarter than me? Kayla's hands trembled only once as Marcus grabbed her arm, his fingers digging into the same skin Alexander had kissed hours earlier. Behind her closed eyes, she pictured not fear, but the future. Her daughter's face, Alexander's smile, freedom. "I know I am," she whispered, then drove her knee upward with all her strength. As he doubled over, she delivered the move Alexander's security team had taught her. Palm heel strike to the nose. Bone crunched beneath her hand. Blood sprayed across her shirt. Marcus stumbled backward, fumbling at his waistband. The gun appeared in his hand, barrel wavering as he tried to focus through pain. "I'll kill you," he gasped. "I swear to God." "Then you'll never see Lily again either," Kayla replied, her nurse's training kicking in as she assessed his injury. "That's a fractured nasal septum. Blood loss will make you dizzy in about 30 seconds. Unconsciousness possible in 2 minutes." His eyes widened with confusion. The Marcus who had always seen her as weak, unable to reconcile this calm, clinical woman before him. The warehouse doors burst open, but it wasn't Alexander or the FBI. Men with guns swept in, grabbing Kayla. "Mr. Santiago sends his regards," one snarled. "Your boyfriend cost him millions. Now we take what Pierce loves most." Recognition flashed across Marcus's bloody face. "Santiago? The drug dealer from Chicago." "Shut up," the leader snapped, pressing a gun to Kayla's head. "You weren't supposed to be here. This is between Santiago and Pierce." Kayla's mind raced. Chicago, where Alexander's wife had died, where his grief had begun. These men weren't random criminals. They were connected to Alexander's past. "Let her go," Marcus said, surprising everyone. "This isn't her fight." The leader laughed. "Since when do you care what happens to her? Santiago's people have been watching. We know you've been stalking her for years." "She's the mother of my child," Marcus replied, blood still streaming down his face. "Whatever's between us stays between us." Kayla caught his eye, a moment of understanding passing between them. For all his flaws, for all his cruelty, Marcus did love Lily in his own damaged way. The distraction was enough. FBI agents flooded through every entrance, shouting commands. Gunfire erupted. Kayla dove behind a concrete pillar as chaos exploded around her. When it ended, Marcus lay bleeding on the ground, a bullet in his shoulder. The Santiago men were in custody, and Alexander was kneeling beside her, hands frantically checking for injuries. "Never do that again," he breathed, pulling her against his chest. "Never disconnect your wire. Never face danger alone." "Did they find her?" Kayla asked, the only question that mattered. "Did they find Lily?" Alexander helped her to her feet. "Yes, she's safe. Agents are bringing her now." As they stepped outside, Marcus was being loaded into an ambulance. He caught Kayla's eye one last time. "She looks just like you," he said, his voice thick with blood and regret. "She always has." The FBI sedan pulled up, and a female agent stepped out, holding the hand of a small girl with wide eyes and braided hair. Kayla's heart stopped, then raced forward, recognizing her own features in miniature. "Lily," she whispered, dropping to her knees as the child approached cautiously. "Are you my real mommy?" the little girl asked, head tilted in curiosity. "Uncle Darnell said my real mommy was lost." Tears streamed down Kayla's face. "I was lost, baby, but I found my way back to you." Have you ever faced your greatest fear to protect someone you love? What gave you the courage? Tell me your story. The heir to the Pierce fortune had never begged for anything in his life, until he offered everything he owned to the drug lord holding the woman he loved. Alexander paced his hotel room, surrounded by FBI agents monitoring phones and radios. 3 hours had passed since Santiago's men had taken Kayla. 3 hours of hell. "We have a location," Agent Rivera announced, pointing to a map. "Compound in the bayou, 20 miles south. Santiago's territory." "I'm going," Alexander stated. Not a question, but a fact. "Absolutely not," Rivera countered. "This is a federal operation. Santiago wants me, not her." Alexander's voice remained calm while his eyes blazed. "Use me as bait." "Not happening." Alexander leaned forward. 10 years ago, Santiago offered to sell experimental drugs to save my wife's cancer. When I refused his black market treatment, he swore vengeance. Eleanor died anyway. Now he's taken Kayla to finish what he started. Rivera studied him. You've never reported this. Because I handled it privately. His jaw tightened. Until now, the compromise came reluctantly. Alexander would approach the compound's edge with a tactical team hidden nearby. One chance to negotiate before the FBI moved in. The cartel's compound rose from the bayou like a fortress, floodlights cutting through fog as Alexander approached alone. Unarmed except for a briefcase and the deadliest weapon he possessed, his mind. Guards patted him down before escorting him inside. The compound's interior contrasted its exterior. Expensive art, marble floors, luxury that blood money bought. Santiago himself sat behind a mahogany desk, a small man with large ambitions. Alexander Pierce, he smiled. Finally, we meet properly. Where is she? Alexander demanded. Your nurse, Santiago Wavkachwidi, alive. For now. Alexander placed the briefcase on the desk. 10 million, cash, plus something more valuable. Exclusive rights to distribute Pierce Medical's cancer treatment in South America. Legal partnership. Santiago's eyebrows rose. You refuse to save your own wife with my help. But for this woman, you offer your company's crown jewel? Times change. People change. Santiago studied him, then pressed a button. 2 guards brought Kayla in, disheveled but unharmed, her eyes widening at the sight of Alexander. Love, Santiago mused. How it weakens even the strongest men. Let her go, Alexander said. Your quarrel is with me. Perhaps I keep you both. The money and the distribution rights. Alexander smiled thinly. The moment you agreed to meet me, satellite imaging captured every entrance to this compound. FBI tactical teams are positioned to move on my signal. Santiago's expression hardened. You're bluffing. Check your perimeter cameras, Alexander suggested. The drug lord's eyes flicked to a monitor where shadows moved at the property's edge. Take the deal, Alexander continued. 10 million cash, legal partnership, international legitimacy, or risk everything for revenge. 10 seconds passed. Santiago Nadit Kirtri. The woman leaves. You stay until the transfer completes. Alexander, no, Kayla started. Go, he commanded gently. Agent Rivera is waiting. As guards escorted her out, Santiago leaned forward. You never intended to stay, did you? Alexander's smile was cold. The moment she's safe, this compound becomes the largest drug bust in Louisiana history. 40 minutes later, helicopters thundered overhead as FBI teams swarmed the property. Alexander walked out unscathed, briefcase still in hand. The money inside untouched, the promises unmade. He found Kayla at the field command center, wrapped in a shock blanket. When their eyes met, everything else vanished. Blood still stained her clothes as his hands traced her body, checking for injuries before claiming her mouth with desperate hunger. I thought I lost you, he breathed against her lips. Never, she promised, pulling him closer, needing to feel alive in his arms. They made it back to the hotel just as dawn broke. Their bodies came together with desperate intensity, each touch affirming life, each kiss a promise of protection. As the helicopter lifted them from the compound, Alexander's phone lit up with a message from his head of security. Child found. Foster home in Baton Rouge. DNA test confirms match, but there's a problem. Adoption papers were filed yesterday. The new parents? Your sister and her husband. What would you sacrifice for love? Is there a price too high when someone's life is at stake? Share your thoughts below. Family meant nothing when Alexander Pierce walked into his sister's mansion with one goal: taking back the child she had stolen to spite him. His sister's plantation-style home gleamed white against the Louisiana sky, a perfect facade hiding the rot within. Much like the family name he now prepared to destroy. You have exactly 1 minute to explain, Alexander said, standing in Victoria's marble foyer while Kayla waited in the car with security. Victoria descended the curved staircase, perfectly composed in designer loungewear. Explain what, dear brother? My new daughter? The adoption is completely legal. Filed yesterday, after I told you about Kayla's child. His voice remained deadly calm. Coincidence? Hardly. Victoria smiled. When your security team started asking questions about a child in Darnell Whitfield's care, I made some calls. Imagine my surprise discovering my brother's fake fiancée had an abandoned daughter. She didn't abandon Lily. The child was stolen. Not according to court records. Victoria's eyes gleamed with malice. They show an unstable woman who tried to harm herself during pregnancy. Charles and I simply provided a loving home for a child in need. Alexander stepped closer. Where did you get those records? Marcus was quite helpful once I explained who I was. We had a lovely chat about your nurse's past. The pieces clicked into place. You helped him blackmail me. I helped protect our family name from a gold digger. Alexander's laugh held no humor. Our family name? The one built on grandfather's bootlegging fortune? The one father nearly destroyed with his gambling? That precious name? At least they married appropriate women. Show me the child, he demanded. She's napping. Victoria glanced at her watch. Besides, your minute is up. From the doorway, a small voice asked, Auntie Vicky, who's that man? Both adults turned. Lily stood in pink pajamas, clutching a stuffed rabbit. Her eyes, Kayla's eyes, wide with curiosity. Alexander knelt, bringing himself to her level. Hello, Lily. My name is Alexander. I know your mother. My real mommy? Hope filled her voice. Yes, she's outside, and she wants to see you very much. Victoria moved between them. Alexander, stop this immediately. The child is confused enough. You chose a stranger over blood, his sister hissed. Alexander's voice cut like glass. She became family the moment she trusted me with her heart. Something you've never understood. As security escorted Victoria away from the child, Alexander held out his hand to Lily. Would you like to meet your mother? The little girl nodded, slipping her tiny hand into his much larger one. Together they walked outside, where Kayla stood frozen beside the car. Time stopped as mother and daughter saw each other. Kayla dropped to her knees, arms open but not forcing, letting Lily choose. The child studied her face, then touched the tears on Kayla's cheek. You look like me. Yes, baby, Kayla whispered. We have the same eyes. Uncle Darnell said he didn't want me. Kayla shook her head. I've wanted you every single day. I never stopped looking for you. Lily took a small step forward. Can I come home with you? We have to talk to some judges first, Alexander explained gently. But we're going to try very hard. The legal battle began the next morning. Alexander's attorneys filed emergency motions while Victoria's legal team countered with Kayla's fabricated mental health history. In their hotel suite that night, Lily finally asleep in the adjoining room. Kayla curled against Alexander's chest. What if we lose? She whispered. What if they believe those fake records? His fingers traced patterns on her back. We won't lose. Truth has evidence on its side. Your sister hates me. Victoria hates anyone who threatens her control. He pressed a kiss to her forehead. What matters is Lily. And you. Their bodies came together in quiet need, mindful of the sleeping child nearby. Each touch was gentle affirmation, each kiss a silent promise. The judge's chambers fell silent as he reviewed the evidence. Miss Brooks, he finally said, these allegations against you are serious. Before I can even consider returning your child, I need to address the documented history of, he paused, looking troubled, your mental health episodes and suicide attempt. When have you had to choose between what's right and what's easy? Between new bonds and old ties? Comment your experience. The courtroom fell silent as America's coldest billionaire took the stand and revealed the truth no one knew. That Kayla Brooks had saved his life long before she hid between his legs. Sunlight streamed through the courtroom's high windows, illuminating dust motes that hung suspended like the collective breath of every witness as Alexander Pierce, the man who never showed emotion, wiped a tear while describing how a kind nurse had stopped him from ending his life. It was 3 years ago, Alexander testified, his voice steady despite the personal nature of his words. After my wife died, I came to Emory Hospital with an intentional overdose. Kayla sat at the defense table, shock evident on her face. This was a story he'd never shared with her. The nurse who pumped my stomach stayed after her shift ended. He continued. She talked to me for hours, convinced me to seek grief counseling instead of another attempt. And that nurse was Ms. Brooks? Their attorney asked. Yes. Alexander's eyes found Kayla's. I never knew her name. She wore a different hairstyle then, but when I saw her again months ago, something felt familiar. Objection, Victoria's attorney called. This touching story has nothing to do with Ms. Brooks's documented mental health issues. Your Honor, Alexander's voice hardened. Those documents are forgeries. My security team has traced their creation to a private clinic owned by Marcus Whitfield's uncle. The judge permitted the medical records expert to approach. Dr. Helena Wong pointed to inconsistencies in the paperwork, signatures that didn't match, dates that conflicted with Kayla's employment records, hospital stamps for facilities she never visited. In my professional opinion, Dr. Wong concluded, these records were created after the fact, likely to support Mr. Whitfield's custody claim. Victoria's face had gone pale. Her attorney whispered urgently in her ear. Furthermore, Alexander continued, we have evidence that my sister contacted Marcus Whitfield immediately after learning about my relationship with Kayla. Phone records show 17 calls between them in the past 2 weeks. The judge removed his glasses, rubbing the bridge of his nose. Mrs. Pierce Hamilton, these are serious allegations of document forgery and potential conspiracy. Victoria stood abruptly. I need to speak with my attorney privately. During the recess, Kayla pulled Alexander into an empty conference room. Why didn't you tell me? She demanded. About the hospital, about how we met before. I didn't remember clearly until I saw your employee file, he admitted. The nurse who saved me had shorter hair, different makeup. But your voice, I never forgot your voice. Her hand cupped his cheek. You were the man who left the anonymous donation to the nursing program. He nodded. It seemed insufficient repayment for my life. The revelation transformed everything between them. Their bodies came together with new understanding. Each touch weighted with years of connection they hadn't recognized. Against the conference room door, his mouth claimed hers with passion born from truth finally spoken. Time is a circle, she whispered against his lips, bringing us back to each other. When court resumed, Victoria's attorney requested a sidebar. Minutes later, the judge made his announcement. Mrs. Pierce Hamilton has withdrawn her adoption petition. Further, she acknowledges receiving information she knew or should have known was falsified. He turned to Kayla. Ms. Brooks, pending final verification of these findings, the court is inclined to restore your full parental rights. Joy broke across Kayla's face like sunrise. Alexander squeezed her hand under the table. However, the judge continued, given the unusual circumstances, I'm ordering a 6-month transition period with court-supervised visitation, gradually increasing to full custody. It wasn't perfect, but it was victory. As they prepared to leave, Marcus was brought in for his own hearing, arm in a sling from the warehouse shooting. I'm sorry, he said simply, eyes on the floor. For everything. The gavel struck with finality. Custody granted to Kayla, with Marcus facing charges. As they prepared to meet Lily for the first time as a family, Alexander's phone buzzed. Turn on the news now. The headline made Kayla's blood freeze. Sex tape of billionaire Alexander Pierce and nurse leaked online. Filmed in hospital parking lot. Has someone from your past ever reappeared when you needed them most? Do you believe some connections are destined? Share your story. The video of her hiding between his legs went viral in hours, turning a moment of terror into a scandal that threatened everything they'd built. News helicopters circled his penthouse like vultures as hashtags multiplied across screens. Hashtag gold digger, hashtag billionaire scandal, hashtag nurse nightmare, reducing their fight for a child to clickbait and cruel memes. How bad is it? Kayla asked, watching Alexander end yet another emergency call with his PR team. Bad, he admitted, loosening his tie. Hospital security footage, edited to look sexual rather than protective. Someone leaked it to every news outlet in the country. Lily napped in the guest bedroom, blissfully unaware of the storm surrounding her new family. After 3 supervised visits, she'd begun calling Kayla mommy, though she remained shy around Alexander. The board is meeting tomorrow, he continued. They want me to issue a statement denying our relationship, claiming you manipulated the situation. Kayla's stomach dropped. And my nursing license? Under review. The ethics committee sees the video as proof of inappropriate conduct with a hospital benefactor. Her fingers twisted nervously. You should do it. Deny me. Save your company. Alexander moved to the window, looking out at the media vans below. For 7 years after Eleanor's death, he'd built walls around himself, protecting Pierce Medical Technologies above all else. Now, those priorities had shifted completely. No, he said simply. Alexander, no, he repeated, turning to face her. I won't deny you. I won't apologize for protecting you. And I certainly won't abandon you and Lily to save my reputation. His phone rang again, the board chairman. Alexander answered on speaker. The emergency meeting starts in 20 minutes, the chairman said without greeting. The vote to remove you is almost certain unless you distance yourself from this situation. Then prepare to vote, Alexander replied calmly. Don't be a fool, Pierce. Everything your father built, everything you've spent your life creating, you'd throw it all away for this woman. Alexander's eyes met Kayla's across the room. Yes, at the emergency board meeting, Alexander stood alone. Gentlemen, you can have my resignation or my leadership. What you cannot have is my silence about the woman I love or the child we're fighting for. The boardroom erupted in arguments. Alexander waited for quiet before continuing. Each of you has received a file containing 2 things. First, evidence that my sister conspired with Kayla's ex to damage my reputation through blackmail. Second, my plans for Pierce Medical's new charitable foundation focused on supporting victims of domestic violence and reuniting families separated by abuse. Murmurs spread through the room. The foundation will be funded personally by me, $30 million to start. Excellent PR, wouldn't you agree? His smile was razor sharp. Now, shall we vote on my removal? Back at the penthouse, Alexander found Kayla on the balcony, wrapped in a blanket against the evening chill. Well, she asked, searching his face. I'm still CEO, he replied, joining her at the railing. Though my sister has been removed from the board. Relief washed over her features. And my license? Your supervisor submitted security footage showing the entire context. You hiding from a man who later shot someone. The ethics committee dropped the investigation. Atlanta's lights spread below them. A sea of brightness against darkness. Standing there, exposed to anyone with a telephoto lens, they should have been cautious. Instead, Alexander pulled her into his arms. Let them watch, he murmured against her hair. Let them see what love actually looks like. Their bodies melded against the railing, his mouth claiming hers with deliberate defiance. His hands traced possessive paths down her body, not caring who might see, who might judge. I love you, he whispered against her skin. Every complicated, messy part of this journey. A small voice from the doorway interrupted them. Mommy? Mr. Alexander. They turned to find Lily in her pajamas, clutching her stuffed rabbit. Hey, sweetie, Kayla smiled, kneeling. Did you have a good nap? The child nodded, then looked up at Alexander with curious eyes. Are you my daddy now? The question froze them both. Before either could respond, Lily continued innocently, because Joey at daycare has a stepdaddy who wasn't always his daddy but is now. Can you be my daddy like that? Alexander knelt beside Kayla, his voice thick with emotion. Would you like that, Lily? The moment Lily was placed in Kayla's arms, time stopped, the child's brown eyes meeting hers with immediate recognition. Mommy, she whispered, touching Kayla's tear-streaked face. Then, turning to Alexander, she asked the question that broke him completely. Are you my daddy now? Have you ever stood against public opinion for something you believed in? How did you handle judgment from strangers? Tell me your experience. For months earlier, she had crawled between a stranger's legs seeking refuge. Now she walked down the aisle toward the man who had helped her build a fortress where fear couldn't reach. Cherry blossoms drifted across the private garden where only 30 guests witnessed their vows. Not the society spectacle Atlanta expected, but the intimate celebration of a family forged through fire. Kayla wore ivory that complemented her dark skin, a simple gown that caught the afternoon light. Lily walked ahead, scattering rose petals, occasionally stopping to make sure her mother was still following. At the altar, Alexander waited, his expression transforming as Kayla approached. The Iceman of Atlanta business had completely melted by love. "You came back," he whispered when she reached him, referring to that first night she'd fled his penthouse. "Always," she replied, taking his hands in hers. Their vows reflected their journey. Promises of protection without possession, of partnership without power imbalance, of truth even when painful. When Alexander pledged himself not just to Kayla, but to Lily as well, there wasn't a dry eye in the garden. The reception flowed with warmth and laughter. The hospital staff who had protected Kayla danced alongside Alexander's executives. Even Marcus's cousin Darnell had come, bringing photos of Lily's early years as a peace offering. "The adoption papers are final," Alexander told Kayla as they swayed on the dance floor. "Lily is legally my daughter now." "Our daughter," she corrected, her head resting against his chest. "Our daughter," he agreed, pressing a kiss to her forehead. Later, he led her away from the celebration to show her the plans for the Kayla Brooks Foundation for Family Reunification, a new organization dedicated to helping parents separated from their children due to domestic violence, false accusations, or legal manipulation. "The first center opens next month," he explained, showing her the blueprints. "Free legal services, counseling, even temporary housing." Tears welled in her eyes. "You're saving families you don't even know." "You saved me first," he reminded her. "That night in the hospital years ago, and again when you trusted me enough to hide between my legs." When the last guest departed, they tucked Lily into bed in her new room. The walls were painted with stars and moons, a sky without limits for a child who would know only love moving forward. In their bedroom, with the Atlanta skyline glittering beyond the windows, they came together as husband and wife. The urgency of crisis had given way to the luxury of forever. His hands traced the constellation of freckles across her shoulder as if mapping stars. "I never believed in fate," he whispered against her skin, "until you dove into my car and straight into my soul." Her answer was to press closer, guiding him home to the place only he belonged. Their bodies moved in perfect rhythm, each touch a promise kept, each kiss a vow renewed. When release came, it was like coming home, to safety, to certainty, to love without conditions. As Lily slept in her new bedroom down the hall, decorated with stars and dreams, Kayla placed Alexander's hand over her heart. "From hidden to home," she whispered. That's our story. Morning found them tangled together, the early light making Alexander's wedding band gleam gold against her skin. The media storm had calmed, replaced by a different narrative. The billionaire who chose love over empire, the nurse who fought for her child, the family created from courage. Lily bounced into their room at dawn, climbing into the bed between them. "Morning, Mommy." "Morning, Daddy." Alexander's eyes met Kayla's over their daughter's head, wonder and gratitude mingling in his gaze. Neither needed words to express what they both knew. Sometimes salvation comes from the most unexpected places, even from between someone's legs during a midnight escape. What does it mean to truly find home in another person? Is safety a place, a person, or something we build together? Share what you believe in the comments. If this journey from fear to family touched your heart, hit that like button and subscribe for more stories about love that defies expectations. Comment below. Would you have risked everything like Alexander did, or protected yourself like Kayla tried to? And remember, sometimes the most beautiful bonds begin in the strangest places, even between someone's legs during a midnight escape.